Hey, it's Maryanne. Welcome to another episode of The Influential Nonprofit. As you know, I work with nonprofit leaders just like you to grow their influence so they can ask for and receive everything they want, need, and deserve to raise them more money, to move your best projects forward, just to make life in general so much easier. And I cannot wait to talk to you about the topic I want to talk to you about today, which is called second date update. So we're going to talk about the second gift, this first gift, second gift, right? Why do we sometimes get really good at the first gift but fall down on the second gift? What happens? What's the break in communication there? As paralleled by this amazing thing I found on TikTok the other day. I was scrolling through as one does, and I find this thing called second date update. Oh my God, immediately obsessed. When I say immediately obsessed, I'm immediately obsessed. Watch like 20 of these because I am in awe of the people's lack of ability to communicate effectively and to navigate situations. And okay, so here's what second date update is. A radio station has a feature and somebody goes on a first date and they don't get a second date and they don't know why because they thought the first date went really well. So then they bring that person on, then they bring the other person on, and the DJ try to navigate and negotiate a way into a second date. And it always happens like this. This is pretty much the template for second date update. I'm going to put a link in. It's a radio station in Dallas called 96.3, but I watch this a TikTok user named Meg posts these every day and does a little commentary, and she's really great. And I'm going to put all the links to that because she's the one. She's my muse, my guide into second date update. But it all goes like this: person comes on, man, we had a really great time. I thought it went really, really well. Could you think of anything that went wrong? No, it was great. It was really great. No, we got along great. Okay. And the second person comes on, how was the date? Oh, it was not good. Well, what happened? Well, there was dispute, there was a difference, there was something. And immediately, almost always, the first person will deflect, dismiss, or deny whatever feedback or whatever went wrong for the second person. Almost always. They will step into their position. One of the ones I like a lot, because I think this was really most of a miscommunication, is a guy asked this woman for drinks. It was a drinks date to a steakhouse because he really likes the cocktails at the steakhouse. She hears drinks date, but also hears steakhouse, gets up in her fancy dress and thinks they're going to go for drinks and then probably have some dinner. Like if they got along, maybe the date would extend into dinner. And they did get along and they had a really nice time, but he never offered her food and she said, I came hungry. I really wanted to eat. And I wound up driving through Jack in the Box on the way home and eating Jack in the Box in my nice dress. Lots to unpack there because I do feel like he may not picked a place with really good food if it wasn't going to have dinner, but she never asked. She never asked to eat. So it was a miscommunication. So they get on the show and she says, well, it was, I was so hungry. You never offered me dinner because you never said you were hungry. You never asked. She's like, well, you don't take somebody for drinks to a steakhouse and not like feed them. It's like, I really like the drinks at this steakhouse. If he would have just said, you're right, I'm so sorry. That was a miscommunication. I can see how you would have misunderstood. If we're willing, why don't we try again? And we can go back to that steakhouse and we'll have an amazing dinner. And the radio station, they'll pay for your second date if you agree to go. Win, 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 right? But no, he had to double down on his choice to go there. So I think this happens a lot in relationships. Any relationships that we have is the miscommunication, right? Because someone's not speaking what they want. The other person isn't hearing what they're really saying because they're not really saying it very concretely. They're kind of suggesting something and you're just not picking up what they're throwing down. And then they don't feel connected and they drift away. And this is why I think a lot of the times between the first gift and the second gift, we stumble because we're not paying attention to what people really want. So here are my 3 lessons on how to build stronger relationships based on what I learned from Second Date Update. And oh my God, this show makes me want to give everyone communication lessons because so many more people I think could be dating or at least get a second date if they could just either speak or listen, right? Like speak your truth or listen for what people are really saying and what people really want. So the first thing is ask for what you want. It's okay to ask for what you want. It is okay to ask for what you want. You are allowed to ask for things to go the way you prefer, even if it's a donor, even if it's a board member. So many times I hear people drop everything because the donor calls. You are constantly training people how to treat you, right? Because and so there it's like a remote control. If they push the button, you change the channel, right? You're on remote. So and so what you're teaching them is they have the money, they have the power, they get to decide what happens to you. And I want you to pull back from that, because it's okay for you to ask for what you want. It's okay to set boundaries on how you work and how you show up best, even with board members, even with donors, because it is a relationship and it's a give and take. And just because they have the money or they're on the board, you think they have the power, you have to acquiesce to them. No, you do not. You can at least advocate for and ask for what you want. Ask if you're hungry, ask to eat. If 4 o'clock isn't a good time for you, ask for a different time. That doesn't really work for me. What about this time? Right? You don't even have to say that doesn't really work for me. Somebody says, can you meet at 7:30 a.m.? My morning schedule precludes me from early meetings. My day starts at 8:30. I would just say, well, I could meet at 8:30. Right? Like I couldn't, because that's not going to be me. So I had my own business, so I didn't have to meet with anybody before 11 o'clock because that's how I show up best, right? I get to say, you get to advocate for your own needs. You are giving your power away to people, just like that woman sitting at the bar being hungry because she's sitting in resentment because she doesn't know how to speak what she wants. When you're sitting in resentment at that 4 o'clock meeting that you dropped everything for, now you're sitting in resentment. And that person could have been like, yeah, tomorrow's fine. I was just saying 4 o'clock today. But they may say, oh yeah, no, it's really important that we meet at 4 o'clock. Okay, tell me more about that. And then you're like, okay, I get it. I can meet at 4. Now I'm choosing to meet at 4. I don't have to. I don't need to. I'm choosing. Remember the energy of choice to meet at 4. And I let go of the resentment, right? Because I'm choosing it now. It may not be ideal, but I get it. And I'm going to let go of the resentment and choose it. When people push me around, I feel like they are. Now I'm sitting in resentment. Okay, right? Now, second thing, feedback, navigating feedback. Anytime on second date update, when someone would say that didn't really go well for me, the person would almost always say, I don't understand. It's not a big deal. If you're playing second date update drinking game, you get to do a shot. And when somebody says it's not a big deal, you're going to be so drunk. So, but what they do, they deflect, dismiss, deny, the 3 big D's of receiving feedback. Oh, it really wasn't that big a deal. I don't know why you're so upset. They're trying to get something from this person. They are trying to get a second date. Do you think that somebody's going to feel seen and heard if you deflect, dismiss, deny? Oh, it really wasn't that big a deal. I don't know why you're so upset. Example, I had somebody say to me, she was a board president and she did a retreat for her board. And she said she was very proud of it and it went great. It went great, but she asked for feedback. And one of the things that she really emphasized was creating a lot of connection time among board members during this retreat. They live all over the country. They don't get together that often. This was a big deal, in-person, big deal thing. She's like, hey, I have all this communication time, connection time, because she knew they would want it. After the retreat, she asks one of the board members, hey, how do you think it went? Oh, it was great. I wish we had more connection time. Oh, I put in plenty of connection time. Okay. Now that was your thought. All you have to do is help people feel seen, heard, and understood. Instead of deflecting, dismissing, denying that feedback, you say, oh my goodness, tell me more about that. Because, and you could even say one of my goals was to have a lot of connection time. And so what would connection time look like to you? What would that mean to you? Because now all they want is to feel seen and heard. All that woman wanted was to feel seen and heard, right? And even whether he agreed that taking somebody to a steakhouse for drinks was a good idea or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If he would have said, I can see what you're saying. I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to like it. I don't have to understand it. All I have to do is empathize with it. I can see what you're saying. Like, they do have good food. It smells good there. I just, I was worried you wouldn't be open to dinner. Or I just really wanted to start with drinks and blah, blah, blah. But I get it. And then you would have like this great opportunity to like have a second date, right? Because she felt seen, heard, and understood. too many times, because and why do we do this? Why do we deflect, dismiss, deny? Because it stirs up something in us, the guilt and shame in us, that we made a wrong choice or we did something wrong, and our ego kind of takes over and we can't handle it. We get a criticism from how an event went or something. Let's say a donor, there was a mix up and the donor gave to this fund, but they got thanked for that fund, and they get upset and they're like, you know, I'm so upset because I give to this fund and you thank me for giving to this fund. And I feel like, and you could say, oh, it's no big deal. It was just a clerical error, blah, blah, blah. Deflect. That's dismissing, right? That's minimizing. You say, oh my gosh, it must be so frustrating because we do love and appreciate you. And I bet you feel like really not appreciated when we can't get the fund right. You're absolutely right to be upset. I don't have to agree with it. I know it was a clerical error. I'm just going to empathize. People will buy to the level they feel seen and heard. Your only job is to allow people to feel seen and heard. And that really takes a release of your ego, right? You can be right or productive. I tell this to my husband a lot, especially dealing with our kids. You can be right or productive. I'm going to choose to be productive. I don't have to be right. And when we release the ego and really tap into what people are saying to us, it's great. Okay. The third thing is, okay, the third piece of this is really about letting go. And what I mean by that is accepting a no. Just like on a first date, there could be a connection or not. And a lot of times on second date update, there's really like not a connection as much. It was fine. It just wasn't great, So sometimes when people give you a first gift, they're doing it because they came to an event with somebody else and they were like, participating and being nice, but there's just not a connection for them, which is totally okay. So being willing to say no or receive a no. It's okay for people to say no. It's okay for you to say no. No is an okay thing, because we think of no as rejection. We think of no like, oh, it hurt. It does hurt, honey. It hurts. I know it hurts. People say no to me, like, what? No, they're not saying no to you. They're saying no to a program. They're saying no to, they're not saying no to you. They're saying this isn't aligned. This isn't in line with my highest values and ideals. It just isn't for me. And so part of this relationship building is seeing people for who they are, not who you want them to be, and allowing the no. It's okay. And if it's not a great fit, so on second date update, a lot of people say, well, I really don't want to go with that person again. And then almost every time, the person who gets rejected will lash out. Well, I didn't want it that much anyway, or I guess I know who you really are, or something like that. It's so, you guys got to listen to this. It is so dang funny. Anyway, but because they get their ego wounded, they get hurt, and they see no as a rejection. So in order to cope with that rejection, they're going to lash out, like fight or flight. They're going to fight. But understanding and reframing no is your job is to get to no as fast as possible. And when somebody says this isn't right for me, you say that's totally okay. Thank you for getting to know us. And and I'd love to maybe just keep you on our mailing list if that's okay. If they say no to that too, that's okay too. Right? Maybe let's check in again next year. A no is a fine thing. Because the more no's you hear, the faster you're going to get to yes. And when we hang on, and I talk about this a lot, right? That fantasy relationship, they say, let me think about it and get back to you. Can you send me something and I'll take a look? And they're not going to do either of those things, but you just don't want to hear a no. So you accept the maybe as the truth, when really, they just didn't want to say a no. The more decision making you give to people, the more likely they are to decide what you want. Okay. Let me give you a little example in my life. This weekend, my son, we have this addition on our house, and he had kind of taken it over and trashed it a bit. And I said, let's clean this all up. Don't you? And he was like, yeah, I want to do that. And now I had a little motive in the back of my head, but I didn't say it then. I said, but my mother-in-law passed away and we got her TV, which is better than our TV. So we have this extra TV we're going to put in this room and like, let's make it nice. Good. Now I've been thinking about getting a treadmill. I haven't yet, but I've been thinking about it. But where would I put it? I have this huge house. Why can't I find space for a treadmill? But I thought, oh, it might go in this back room. And so I took it up and I said, AJ, what if like I got a treadmill? I could put it back here. He goes, well, could I use it? I'm like, yeah. He goes, I wouldn't mind getting on that. I said, that'd be great. I said, what do you think about that? And he's like, yeah. And my husband said, you don't have to ask permission to put things in your own house. And I said, that's true. I don't. And also, I was allowing him to make the choice, because when he got to make the choice, he was more likely to choose what I wanted. I could have said, I'm moving in. Here comes my treadmill. But I didn't. I said, well, it might be cool to like make this like a little like loungy / workout space. He's like, I would really like that. Okay, let's do that. Now he's bought into it. So remember, the more decision making you give other people, the more likely they are to choose what you want. So somebody would say, listen, I'm really sorry for the misunderstanding. I would love to take you out again, but I just want you to be 100% comfortable. So if it's yes, let's do it. If it's no, that's totally okay. I get it. Either way, it's up to you. And they're going to be more likely to say yes to that second date. And if you're saying to a donor, whatever you decide is totally okay. I get it. If it's not a full chested 100% absolutely yes, it's a no. Okay. It is. There's nothing in between. And if you're in this, let's do it. If not, that's completely okay. I understand. It was great to meet you. Let me know if you need anything in the future, if anything changes, or if you know anybody else who think might be a good fit for this sponsorship, donor, whatever. All right. So those are the 3 big things, right? Ask for what you want. Ask for what you want. Navigate feedback by allowing people to feel seen, heard, and understood. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like it. You don't have to understand it. You just have to empathize and validate what they see, and then they will relax. And when they're relaxed, they'll be open to what you have to say. And also embrace the no. It's okay. No's help us navigate. Yes, they hurt. I understand. But also they help us spend the most time on the most qualified prospects and let go of the people who are never really going to do it anyway. They should know how to say no because they didn't want to hurt your feelings or they didn't want to feel uncharitable. So when you give people permission to say no, the weirdest thing is they're more likely to say yes, because they get to decide. And when they get to decide, they're going to choose what you want most of the time. All right. So promise me you're going to check out Second Date Update. It is amazing. Also, here's another thing I'd love to share with you. If you like my content, if you like how I, the kinds of lessons that I teach about this and all the other lessons around communicating and building relationships and standing in your value and creating better leadership, I'm doing something super, super cool. I do a 6-week course called Up-Level Your Influence. I've been doing it since 2020. I've had 300 or so people come through this course. I'm going to do a new thing this time, and I'm doing it as a 3-day intensive. Right? In, learn, out. Because here's the thing, because my 4th quarter class, it was, but with the holidays and year-end stuff, it wasn't the great time for a 6-week course. Now, I've done 3-day things before. And also my coach, her name is Michelle Villalobos. This is her specialty. So I'm very, very good at this. Okay. This is going to be an amazing experience. I know how to make this work. It will be virtual, but do not worry. It's going to go fast. It's going to be fun. You're going to learn a ton. You're going to come out on the other side. Imagine in October being fired up, focused, ready for the end of the year, ready to navigate that most, stressful part of the year, feeling sovereign, feeling like that queen that you are, and then channeling that into 2024. That's what's going to happen for you in 3 days. Now, if you're like, dang, this sounds really cool, Maryanne, I'm up for it. So there's a link in the show notes. It's a quickie intro call with me. Just book it and let's talk about it. Again, it's totally up to you. Whatever you decide is completely okay. If it's for you, we can talk about it. If not, that's okay too. You may or may not be ready for this. We can decide together what that looks like. And even if you don't join the program, I mean, come on, we get to chat and I'm going to give you tons of valuable information and wisdom that you can start applying right away. And if there's And if you feel like the course, the 3-day intensive is a fit for you, I feel like you might be a fit. We can talk about it. But I'm going to tell you, it is life changing. And I say that because I've seen it over, and this is why I do what I do. It fills me with joy to help you ascend to that next level of leadership, to set healthy agreements and boundaries with people, to be able to navigate situations, ask for what you want, stand in your value, navigate rejection, right? And it just gives this flow and ease and grace. And if you're sitting in like a little bit of burnout, you need that cup filled, let's talk about it. All right. Okay, so that's it for me. It's a quickie intro call with me, 15 minutes. It's in the show notes. If you're interested, book a time. And I will see you next time on the Influential Nonprofit.